Present.
Present.
Here.
Present.
Present. Tonight we have Pastor Brant Lyon, and he's the senior pastor at 12 Oaks Baptist Church to do our invocation. And then our Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be Haddon Shively, and Haddon is a Clark School 4th grader, so as soon as we do our invocation, he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Let's pray.
Dan.
Father, we come before you tonight. We thank you for the privilege of being in a place, Father, we have the freedoms to be here, to come together to make decisions about our community. But, Father, we acknowledge first and foremost that you are the giver of all good things. You are the provider of our abundance and our peace. Father, we pray for continued peace. Father, we pray for each and every one of those who would lead our community. We pray that you would be with them in wisdom, that they would have the knowledge that they need to lead us correctly, that they would lead us with righteousness and truth. Father, we pray that they would have a sense of welfare for the people of our community, to know their true needs. Father, we lift them up to you tonight, that they would lead us rightly. Lord, may the things that we do within our community lift high your name and be a benefit to your people. We ask it all in the name of Jesus, our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Haddon. City Manager, any additions or deletions?
There are none.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight to the workshop with the McCracken County Fiscal Court. Welcome, Judge Leeper and Commissioner Bartleman. Welcome. Commissioner Wathan. Welcome. So we're here tonight to hear a report on the Kentucky State Police E911 dispatching proposal. And we also need to do, don't we need to do a roll call for the county? So go ahead at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Wathan.
Here.
Commissioner Bartleman.
Here.
Judge Leeper.
Here.
So, Judge, I'll defer to you. And do you have any comments before we get started?
I would just like to repeat what I said the other night about Commissioner Byer, who couldn't be here. He's doing training for a group that he actually performs the training with in Lexington, and couldn't be here with us. Has heard the presentation numerous times, is willing to let us all get together and meet tonight and not hold us up. We obviously would like to move forward as expeditiously as possible on the issue, and trying to get everybody together was difficult. So I appreciate Commissioner Byer's willingness to allow us to do this, and I'd also like to thank you all for allowing us to come to your house here, if you will. Since there's a ball game tonight, we'll use ball game term. Get to come into your house and meet with you all and discuss this issue that's going to be important. I believe the last time I had a joint city-county commission meeting was about 27 years ago, or 28 maybe, and it was on E911.
Wow.
It was sitting right here. So this is kind of ironic that we're here tonight, but I look forward to the presentation by the Kentucky State Police, and thank you all again for having us.
Thank you. We're glad to have you here. So without further ado, let's move on with our workshop, and that would be, since the name isn't here.
Presentation by KSP. I believe this gentleman is.
I'm sorry, I didn't have your name down.
That's okay. I'm Brent White.
Brent?
I'm with Post 1, and before we get into kind of how this, I guess this presentation will be, and hopefully a question and answer session for you all, so that we're an information resource for you as you're making complex decisions about E911 and the future of dispatching services. I'd like to introduce the KSP delegation that's here. First of all, we have Major John Bradley. He's the commander of the KSP's Technical Services Division, headquartered out of Frankfort. Captain Janet Barnett. Captain Barnett is the Post 1 commander at Mayfield, serves the 11 western counties of Kentucky. We have Mr. Seth Hawthorne. He is our Next Generation 911 Technology Coordinator assigned to KSP Communications Section. Mr. Tony Hubry. who is the West Region KSP Communications Supervisor, and Ms. Cammie Beasley, who is our Communications Supervisor at the State Police PSAP located in Hickory. Again, my name is Brent White. I serve as the Operations Supervisor for Post 1 Mayfield, and part of my duties involve 911 at our installation. Previously, and I hope that each of you have, it appears that you do, and if you don't, I can provide my copy to you there. Okay. You have in front of you what is the technically now the expired proposal that was presented to you. Mayor, do you need one?
I do.
Okay, hang on just a second.
Thank you.
I know that at least the city delegation has received some information prior to our arrival from the city delegation that serves on the Paducah McCracken 911 board. So I don't want to necessarily replow some ground, but obviously it's understandable that you may have some questions following that information. The county delegation, some of which they have some of the similar information, some of you don't. So we're not here, give you some disclaimers first. We're not here to be a vendor to sell our services. We are still in partnership with both the Paducah city agencies as well as the McCracken County agencies, and we want to be a resource to you. Whether you decide to consolidate dispatch services with us or without us, we're not going to have any hard feelings about that. We typically get requests all over the Commonwealth as people navigate this animal that is the 911 service. It's complex, it's confusing, and hopefully we hope to be a resource that gives you a little bit clearer understanding tonight of where 911 is going, where we are at with 911 as an agency, and hopefully what we can provide to you as an alternative to what you have now. You may see fit that is not the fit for Paducah or McCracken County, and certainly that's your prerogative, but we want you to understand the proposal that's been given to you. It's our understanding that the Paducah McCracken 911 board did not vote to give either body necessarily a recommendation, so that kind of defaults to where we're here tonight. So the reason that we brought the entire delegation here for you from the state police is to be able to be a resource for you. So certainly we want you to ask questions, especially as it relates to the proposal that you have in front of you. Again, technically that's expired, but we would help navigate you through that to see what this presentation might be like in reality. And before we go any further, I want to disclaim, I talked with Chief Kyle earlier, and he brought up a very good point. When the state police was approached about providing you this consolidation proposal, it was our understanding that the Paducah McCracken 911 revenues were at a point that we're not able to necessarily satisfy all the expenditures. And typically that's where we get contacted as an agency when revenue gets to a point where it's not as easily able to sustain your 911 service. And so the proposal that you have in front of you is simply the basic bare bones cost to do two things: to be your 911 operator and to provide, secondly, comprehensive dispatching services to your emergency first responder agencies, both in the county and the city. I'll let Major Bradley explain how we came up a little bit with some of those numbers. But we provided that estimate to you based upon the impression that we received from the requesting parties that you all were at a consolidated, from city and county, were at a place in time where, you know, the revenues just weren't there to keep the same level of service that you currently have. And so that's the reason you have that bare bones revenue neutral for us estimate. Obviously, when you purchase anything via contract, whether it's interlocal agreement or otherwise, you can get more service level for the amount of money that you put into it. So there are some things. We've answered over 130 questions, some of which you'll see in the very back of your packet, which is actually the only formal responses, I believe, that we've given to the Paducah McCracken 911 board based on questions from the user agencies. It's the very last thing in your packet. But in total, we've answered about 130 questions. Some of that you will see in there, as Chief Kyle previously articulated, requires further study or may need more information in order to answer that question. That doesn't mean that the Kentucky State Police can't do what your service level possibly is now. It just may require some further study because we may not be providing that service to a user right now. That doesn't mean no, we won't do that, or no, we can't do that, but there may be some logistical issues, there may be some infrastructure issues, there actually may be some federal and state law issues that would have to be worked around in order to make that happen. I'll give you an example of that. Currently, Paducah McCracken 911 provides CAD access via mobile computers to the fire department. And technically, right now, the Kentucky State Police at our post, we only provide that to sworn law enforcement. There's a reason for that. We put what's called NCIC, APHIS, inlets, database information onto these CAD cards, and by law, only sworn law enforcement can receive that information. Well, how does that make Paducah McCracken County able to do that for their fire department? It's simple. They do a separate CAD incident report that does not contain that information in it, and they send it to the fire department. So they do a separate report. In our business, we call that redundant CADing, but that's how the fire department is able to get that information. That doesn't mean we can't do it. It just means we can't do it in our current configuration. We would have to work around that to determine how that could be done. And I hope that just gives you one example of some of the questions that were asked and some of the reasoning, why that the answers are the way they are in this basic revenue-neutral proposal that we provided you all. With that, before you get into any questions, are there any questions of me before I yield to Major Bradley and the rest of our delegation?
Don't have any questions.
Okay, all right. Hey, that's great. If you change your mind, be happy to answer them. We have an array of both administrative and technical people here tonight. So if you have a technical question about telephony or how hardware or software would work, where a demarcation line would be as to how the city or the county, who would be responsible from this point to here, this point beyond, we can certainly answer those questions for you tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to come to you tonight. I'll pass this off to Major Bradley now and let him give you a little bit additional information.
Thank you, Mayor Kaler, for the invite for us to come down here and the opportunity to speak before you all. One thing that I'll clarify that Brent said is this proposal is intended to be value neutral. Well, that's not exactly true in that, as you all know, 911 is never a moneymaker. I think back about 15 years ago when CMRS money started being collected at, I might add, the same rate to this day that they were when the program was instituted, a lot of counties did jump out of their consolidated formats and went out on their own because they thought it'd be a revenue generator, and it's not. This is an expensive proposition. It's going to continue to be an expensive proposition. And to be honest, of the numbers you see before you that KSP's provided, I think it's fair to say that at expiration of whatever agreement we may enter into, those numbers would probably go up. I don't know of anything that the price has consistently gone down on that I purchase, and I think 911's the same. But as a city and county government entity that has to be responsible for 911 in your county, I think you can expect that no matter where you get your dispatch service, whether you do it in-house, whether you consolidate with Post 1, or whether you look for other partners. It really is a money loser. I'll also reiterate what Brent said. We were asked if we wanted to make a presentation and do a PowerPoint and all that. Well, the presentation is what you have before you, the proposal that we sent. We were asked to do a bare bones, low-cost proposal. We've done that. We've received numerous questions after the fact. We've answered those to the best of our ability. We think it's a good proposal, and although those numbers technically expired on January 15th, If we redid the proposal and gave it to you again, I don't anticipate the cost would be significantly different. It's just when we were discussing this back in the summer, we had to put a sunset on the validity of those numbers because obviously technical equipment, as like we're talking about, goes up. Another thing I will tell each of you, both our guests and the audience that have a vested interest in this process, as well as this contingent, no matter what you do, this is going to be fraught with obstacles. Now, the Kentucky State Police is not new to this business. We've consolidated 911 centers with several places across the state. There's always challenges, and this would be the largest one we've ever done, and it'd be the first one where we would have to enter into a capital construction at Post 1. We simply don't have the room right now because we're dispatching for 5 counties down there, as well as KSP. We don't have the room to take on something of this magnitude and add the dispatch staff that we'd have to. So part of what you see reflected is contingent upon a capital construction proposal, and that's probably a 1 to 2 year project just in itself. So I think if you decide to move forward with this, there has to be an understanding that this process is going to be slow. It's going to involve state bids and things of that nature before we even get to the technical piece. The good news is I think that gives us ample time to work out whatever arrangements that we need to make sure all of our partners are happy with the proposal. We anticipate the price, just generally spoken, before we ever go into our comprehensive agreement to be $1.2 million. And that's as close as we can nail it. But again, this is something that will be, pursuing as somewhat of a moving target as we go, because obviously we have to enter into contracts, get bids done, and go through the state competitive bid process for that. I think that there's been at least some belief, and this is based only, not on direct conversations, but by things that I've seen, both anecdotally that's filtered back through Brent and Captain Barnett, as well as things that I've seen in the paper. I think there's a misconception that we've never done anything like this. Well, that's true that we've never consolidated 911 center this big, but it's important to note that we have posts that deal with about double the volume that you have at Paducah McCracken right now. We have Post 9 Pikeville, which is our busiest post. It serves a population of about 124,000 people. Likewise, the population served by Post 1 now is roughly equivalent to Paducah McCracken, so we would anticipate this doubling our call volume roughly here, but that would put it commensurate with some of the other posts, or at least one other post that we have. So we do have some experience with this, and that's primarily the way that our staffing numbers were derived. We've been doing 911 in some of our counties since they've had a 911 center. We're the only people that's ever dispatched for them. So I think we have a realistic and solid idea of how many people it takes to staff this and how to run a 911 center. We took about 250,000 911 calls last year, so it's not a new business for us, but some of the aspects here would be unique. Really, in terms of a formal proposal, I don't have anything. As I said, you already have our formal proposal here in front of you. Any questions that you have for us, I think we should have the contingent here to do it. But I think it says a lot about how complex and difficult E911 is. I've gone to fight complaints with weapons involved many times and just gone by myself, but I have to bring 4 people with me to answer questions about 911. So that's just the nature of this business. It really is, as Brett said, it's a monster. I know you all have some familiarity with that based on the decisions you've had to make in running your 911 center up to this point, and we likewise are similarly affected.
Currently, we have 18 dispatchers at our 911 center, and whenever you talk about consolidation, those folks, our folks, are sitting on pins and needles, are wanting to know if they're going to have a job. So, talk to us a little bit about the formula you're going to use to determine how many employees you'll retain from, if we decide to go that way, from our guys, from our center.
A very good question, and this happens every time we've done a consolidation. And to be frank with you, one of the reasons that consolidations typically save money is because you've got an economy of scale. We already have 20 dispatchers at Post 1. We anticipate with the additional call volume that it'll take 30 dispatchers. That's 10 dispatchers. Would your people have priority in hiring? I can't stand here in a public forum and say, well, yes, we'll give them priority, because there are state laws on how employment is done when you come on to employment with the state. However, my experience has been that dispatchers with prior experience in the 911 center that's consolidated often are very, very competitive in that process, but it's strictly a merit-based process. Chapter 18A hiring system is called merit system for that very reason. So I would think that at least some number of your current telecommunications personnel would be excellent candidates, provided they can get on the register, be certified for the register, and pass the background.
So that's an additional background because to be hired at our facility they go through a pretty stringent background check. So moving, let's say we decide to go this route with you guys coming onto the post, that's an additional background check to make sure that everybody is where they need to be, that's eligible for hire. Is that what you?
That's right. The state actually has a system where they look at the class specification of a job, and they determine what prerequisites you have to have in terms of education, experience, and things of those natures. To come on as a telecommunicator, I would think, now I don't know the background of everybody you've got in your current center, but I would think that anybody in there would be able to get on the register for that. But that is one requirement, is just to get on an employment register. Then before we select someone for hire, we're required by law to do a polygraph, a drug screen, fingerprint checks to make sure that there's no criminal history, and we also do interviews pursuant to their background. And we do that for any employee, not just telecommunicators, although the statutes required to receive employment are admittedly a little bit stronger for telecommunicators because they have access to privileged information, such as CJIS information.
How would it work then during this 24 months of consolidation? And so what happens to the employees who say, well, I'm probably not going to get hired, I'm going to bail and go find my life's work elsewhere?
You know, we talked about that earlier, and that is a problem every time we do a consolidation. You know, quite frankly, there's going to be a period of time where you're going to have to hire extra people. We would probably have to work out some sort of transition plan where we assisted with that if that's something that the city and the county were willing to do. But that's one of the things, like I said, that we would have to work on going forward. It's one of those things I can't give you a definite answer right now. And that's another thing I'd like to reiterate. I think that there's been either a belief or at least a hope that you could say, well, we're going to consolidate with Post 1 and nothing will change. And nothing could be further from the truth. We're all going to have to embrace change. The only way these ever work is for all entities, both the post. The post is going to be a different place after this if it happens. It's not going to be the same environment. I've already told you it would take a capital improvement, but it's also going to really change the complexion of our post, but it changes the complexion of what you receive as well. So that would be one aspect where that would be helped.
Pretty close here in post.
You say the rate of pay?
Yeah, for the.
Honestly, I don't know. Do any of you all know?
I can address that a little bit. Your current facility has a more tiered pay scale and employee to supervisor ratio that's different than ours. We use a smaller supervisor ratio to employee ratio than your current organizational chart. So from the telecommunicator level, one thing that we could do to look at hopefully hiring people that comes from experienced telecommunications center already is at the local level, I can decide whether I wish to hire what's called a telecommunicator 1 classification. That is the lowest entry baseline scale. The telecommunicator 2, however, is if the classification meets, if their prerequisites and previous experience rises to that level, that would be closer to their pay scale probably than, now we don't have a cafeteria plan, we don't have a gym membership plan, things like that your all's, we do have a clothing allowance, but we do not have some of the benefits for our employees, some of the fringe that your employees at the Paducah McCracken 911 Center currently have or have available to them. And so, you know, I think from if I wanted to capture experience, which I always want to capture experience in a 911 center, then if I know that I have 15 potential candidates out there that have that experience from a 911 manager position, I may look at hiring telecommunicator 2. The only drawback to that in state government is the fact that telecommunicator 1 is an immediate fill position. I can hire those people and get them into the workplace quicker than I can a telecommunicator 2. But we're just talking about a couple of weeks difference from the 1 classification to the 1. But the telecommunicator 2 to answer your question, will be more commensurate with the pay scale that you would have for a basic telecommunicator at your facility now.
But saving could certainly come from hiring a less expensive person.
Pardon?
Pay scale, you could save money by hiring a less expensive person.
You could, but that's not always what I need.
We typically don't. We
Yeah,
typically
yeah.
try to hire most experienced.
That's exactly right.
That would hold true in this and just
Yes,
going forward now. I mean, even now we would do
absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brent.
Can you tell me a little bit about some of the hidden cost with the proposal?
I'm not
Like
aware of any
the
hidden
software
costs.
compatibility between the CAD and the MDT, and the property acquisition for the microwave towers, and to establish radio redundancy. Any of those?
Those aren't hidden
Issue.
costs in the proposal because we didn't
You have
we didn't mention anything about that. It's important to note that your radio infrastructure, there's going to be a demarc, and Paducah McCracken is still responsible for that radio infrastructure. I think there was some belief that this was a turnkey solution and we'd be responsible for everything from the cars, on up to the radio infrastructure. And that's not the case for anybody that we dispatch for.
okay.
So we would still have those costs.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want you to be clear and know up front that you still have those costs. You'll still have to contract with your radio vendor to make sure that all the equipment in your cars work and that your radio infrastructure is sound.
Just
And
so
do we
you
have
know,
any idea what those costs might be?
I think you pay currently, and Chairman Kyle's here, but I think you pay currently your local two-way radio vendor, you pay about an annual $52,000 contract with that vendor. Is that correct, Chairman Kyle? Around $52,000 per year, and that cost would still be there.
What about the T1 lines?
Tony, do you know what the price of the T1 lines? Okay, flat rate of $500 a month. Again, I don't know that
Now,
any of those costs are
would-
hidden exactly. I think
Would
those
we
been
have to
presented.
do that, or would you be doing that? The T1 lines? Would that be our responsibility, or?
Honestly, yeah,
Okay.
it is.
When it
So
comes
that's
to our-
more of negotiating the terms later? Okay.
Typically, as it is in your proposal, and I can call attention to it on a certain page if that
Good.
will help you.
Go ahead.
If you'll turn to page 2, where it says radio console hardware, this equipment will link the KSP Central Electronic Bank Network to the existing CEB at Paducah McCracken 911. Would require your existing infrastructure that you already own. You wouldn't have to construct anything else. But your existing infrastructure here would be still your property, still under local control. You still you determine whatever local vendor you want to use. If this was a turnkey type situation, which we don't advocate anyway, that control would be taken from you. But you get to spend your local dollars in your local community for that. That wouldn't go away. And then we would determine in agreement with you what that telco demarcation line is, which is usually our central electronic bank there at Post 1, and you all would be responsible for everything back to your facility.
So where does the savings come in? Just from the dispatchers, from going from 18 that we currently have to 10?
That's a good deal of it. Also facilities, also software licenses, also maintenance of radio hardware within the radio room. The point is, our 16 posts aren't going anywhere. They're already there. They're already staffed. Now, to take on something like this, we've got to increase staff, but we don't have to maintain, or at least if you have somebody else do it, you don't have to maintain the computer hardware. You don't have to maintain anything that you have to maintain in your center now. And it's, like I said, it's an economy of scale. It's cheaper to consolidate resources because you're sharing resources then. Obviously, some of that cost is passed on to you in the $698,000 annually that we anticipate it'll take to break even on the project. And that's just a break-even cost that's irrespective of what we already have to have in the post. We try to make it as closely as we can to the cent, equally shared resource to where we pass nothing on to you that you wouldn't be paying anyway by maintaining it yourself. Does that answer your question?
Okay.
Part of that's personnel, but part of it's facilities as well.
I mean, I don't know anything about 911, so, I really don't know a lot of questions maybe that I should be asking. But on some of these fixed costs that you've talked about that we're responsible for, is that just the city is responsible for those particular items? Or is it city and county together is responsible for that?
Ultimately,
would it still stay that way? Or how does that work?
Ultimately, I think that's a decision y'all would have to make collectively. It would be whomever we enter into a contract with, whoever we enter into an agreement with, whether that's the city or the county independently, or whether you do it collectively as a board. Again, that's a local decision. I think it would probably be most effective, and probably my personal opinion sitting here is it's most effective to move forward as one and let us contract with one entity. But honestly, that would be up to you.
I think this brings up a good point, if I can interject one thing. In this proposal, you'll see an interlocal agreement that we entered into with Owen, Trimble, and Henry County. I'll call your attention to that. And on the second page of that document, where it has the bold location of the PSAPs and PSAP Advisory Board, one of the things that the state police recommends is that you still have local control over your 911 fee money. It's not that you're giving the control of all your 911 fee money to the state police. We don't, it's your money, okay? Derived from your citizens via your landline surcharge, however that is, and the wireless money that's routed to the CMRS board. We recommend, and don't let me if I say anything that you don't prefer here, but we recommend that previously you all, as the PSAP, that you all keep a PSAP advisory board. You keep a 911 board. You still collect your fee money, but generally what most people do is they pay our contract out of that fee money. That way you still control your money. Does that make sense? Does that help you understand it a little bit better? And then if you have ongoing maintenance issues from the telco demarcation line back, you can pay for it out of those monies. Does that make sense? Does that help clear that up?
Well, except, okay, in the PSAP advisory board in the example here on page 2, it says that there'll be one designated by the county judge, executive of each county. And you all said you right now dispatch for 5 counties, so we'd be the 6th.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
So it seemed to me like that you would have 5 counties, each having one representative, in McCracken County, or Paducah McCracken County, one more. So we'd have one of us and 5 from 5, and I don't mean to be this way, but 5 smaller counties would not have the volume. So that sounds like we would be giving our control, I hate to use the word control.
That's a great question. Let me explain how it is currently. In our Post 1 district, we have it in 2 different ways right now currently. The other counties that we dispatch for besides the city of, and there's 2 animals here, okay? We're the public safety answering point for 5 of our 11 counties and 1 of our major municipalities, that being Mayfield, okay? We do comprehensive dispatching services in addition to answering the 911 call as the PSAP. That's what a PSAP is. We're the first one to answer the 911 call. It's a little bit confusing. Then we also provide comprehensive dispatching services for the entire county of Lyon, their cities, the entire county of Graves, and the city of Mayfield. In doing so, those members of those counties belong to what's called the Purchase E911 Board. The only one out of that I just said that's not is the city of Mayfield. And they get their 911 money, and then they send us a check for the contracted amount. They're not a member of a board. What we're talking about here is each interlocal agreement is crafted differently to tailor your needs. So we're not advocating that you be a part of a member board with the other counties. We would recommend you be your own board. You may not want 11 members on it, but that you be your own, you still have a local advisory board. Does that make sense, Mr. Rhodes?
Thanks, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not compelled to join any group that you don't want to. You may choose to, but that's, again, up to you and the other members if you wanted to do that.
When you all talk about the dispatch for 5 counties and the city of Mayfield, now is that a 24/7, 365, the complete?
Yes, sir. In those 5 counties, if you dial 911, it's going to be answered by Post 1.
For example, the Sheriff's Department of Lyon County, and then when they go in the evening, then it rolls over to you. In other words, it's you from from the get-go.
That's right. If it's a 911 call, that doesn't mean that we do 24-hour administrative answering for them, but that's a possibility too.
I mean, what qualifies as 911? Does Lifeline, is that a 911? Like if a Lifeline goes off? I mean, I know that 911.
No, those are private services. 911 just simply means that you've dialed those digits. I mean, I don't mean to oversimplify it, but it's.
What does it really cover? Like what emergencies? You see a wreck, you call 911.
And I'm not aware of a strict definition that says it is 911 if it's this and it's not if it's something else.
So
typically, anytime that you need to use a public safety provider for service, it's appropriate to use 911.
Or you can put other things under that, depending on how you negotiate a contract.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean. If we do comprehensive dispatch, we'll dispatch for everything, both administrative and not emergency matters, and also for emergency matters. But 911 just means that infrastructure to automatically route that call to a public safety answering point has been initiated by dialing those 3 digits. That's only one part of what we do if we do comprehensive dispatch. We answer the 911 calls. We also dispatch 911, which means we get the public safety provider that's needed sent to the scene, but we also will do comprehensive dispatch and answering as well, or at least can.
But don't we have some things added on to our 911 service that you wouldn't think of 911?
Well, when airport,
yeah,
gaseous diffusion plants.
Right. When we went through the questions in the back, that's one of the things. Like, you won't be responsible for the gaseous diffusion plant, the warnings, all those things. We have to figure out a way to handle. But they would answer animal control, I believe. You said you would answer that.
Yeah.
All those things, but there are things that we would have to figure out.
That's right. That's part of the clarification.
They will not be responsible for.
It's part of the clarification process we did with the board. Is there's some things we don't currently do, and I think Brent said it best when he said we were asked to give a bare bones. What will it take to answer these calls of dispatch for you? Those things could be worked out, but they may require technical infrastructure changes, or they may be something we have to roll into a service agreement as we went forward. Could affect the price on the margins. Again, I don't see a significant effect to do things like that, but it's something we'd have to consider if we came down with a final service level agreement that we all endorse and decide to go forward with.
So if basic question that a lot of citizens have, should they anticipate any reduction in response time if we go with you guys as answering the 911? 911, boom, I got an emergency. Even though it's moved, is that gonna affect the response time, the ambulance getting to my front door?
It should not. Honestly, the way you're dispatched now, all dispatching goes at the speed of light. I mean, it really does. The messages that go, the phone call is routed. The phone call is going to get to Hickory just as quickly as it does to Paducah right now from your caller, if the system's working correctly, and we have no reason to anticipate it wouldn't. And when you
let's talk about that.
And when you dispatch that out, we're talking about radio waves.
Right.
As soon as they hit the button and knock out an ambulance, that should go at the same speed, really, regardless of where you initiate the call from.
So, but if there's no backup, there's no redundant system between Paducah and Mayfield, and on that night...
Well, that's where I was headed, actually.
That the farmer has disc of his field, and he just happened to cut the wire, the cable.
And it's a problem that, and I'm not a telephony expert, it's a problem you could have now.
Yeah.
That's a problem regardless.
Well, that in September it went down for like 4 days, I believe, because we had an issue with the parts, as I understand. And I want to ask a question about the end of life with the equipment in a minute, Lieutenant White. But so you all served, Post 1 served as backup, I believe. In a situation such as the ice storm, Madisonville will be your backup, or serves as your backup. Post 2? So in a situation, and I understand as long as in September it would have been fine, the weather's fine, everything's okay, it works. But in a situation, a catastrophic event like the ice storm, I don't think Post 2 they don't deal with this volume. And that's when we would need it most. I mean...
Well, how many people, you said 20 work at Post 1, how many work at Madisonville?
They're only about 9 or 10 right now, and that is an issue. But one of the things that we're talking about, we haven't got all the apples compared here. What we would propose, and Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, the redundancy that we would have with you all, we would have a T1 line going down there as our primary and a microwave redundancy. Is that correct, Tony?
We can talk about that, or we can talk about route diversity with the T1. In other words, have them separated physically where backhoe wouldn't both of them.
Right. We would have a redundancy in place. We would not let just one facility be the only component to our redundancy. Honestly, it's a great question. We would have to send personnel to that other facility to help manage that. You don't have a full redundancy right now.
Yeah, I know.
Us being your backup.
That's what I was going to say. To tell you that I can propose a perfect solution that's going to give you seamless service, irrespective of an ice storm or an earthquake or things like that, there's nobody, not anybody locally, not anybody out there that I think can credibly say, I can guarantee you there's no way this thing can fail. That's a fool's pursuit there. You try to make it as robust and as resilient as possible, and we will build that in. But I can't sit here and promise you that any system is going to be fail-safe, foolproof, and 100% in service at all times.
On the technology side, do you believe that your services will offer the same level of technology that we currently have? I know you did mention the difference in the fire department. The way I understand it now, when the fire department gets a call, but by the time they get to the truck, they have a computer screen, and I'm looking at Chief Kyle, but that shows them exactly where they're going, every crossroad that they're going to go by, warns them of anything else that they would be in danger or that they could face when they get to that location. But we would not be able to have that with the new service?
I think that'd be a bit far to say that you could not have that. As Brent said, we don't currently send CADs to fire trucks, but we could. That's something we would have to work out how to do it. There are ways to do that. But as far as specific technology, what's changed, honestly, I don't know. I would have to leave that to Tony and Seth to tell you what specifically that would look different within your cars and trucks as opposed to what you have now. Can you all add anything to that?
Well, I know that we're providing CAD to EMS services in Clark County.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a small scale, but there's no reason.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't anticipate any differences, but there
I
may.
believe the technology level that you offer would be the same as what we currently have.
I do. I absolutely do. And in addition to that, at some stage, and I don't know where you are in your planning process for this because I haven't talked to people that manage your 911 center about this, you're going to have to be ready for next gen 911 as well. That's, text to 911, possibly video streaming. The phone companies are not ready to do that yet, but there are FCC mandates that say they're going to have to be ready, I believe, by July 2016. Is that right? And we are already putting a plan in place to make KSP next gen ready for our entire footprint. We currently, you talk about backup and redundancy. We are currently entered into an agreement with the purchase area board as well as the board around post 13 and hazard to where we're going to hook those two 911 controllers together to where you have full resiliency. In other words, if the 911 controller at hazard goes dark, the area that they serve and the other KSP posts that we network off of it will fall over to the Mayfield 911 controller. Likewise, if your controller goes dark in Mayfield, it's going to fall over to the hazard one. So we do have some ways to build in redundancy, but when you're talking about connections to your radio system or phone connections, those are things that are out of our control, quite honestly.
I think Commissioner Bartleman has a...
Yes, sir. My understanding is the state police, you have a mobile command center, is that correct?
We do.
One. Is that sufficient if there's a major breakdown in the system that mobile command center could take over the 911 calls?
To say that it could take over everything that you do, I don't know that I could say that. Tony, please weigh in on that.
When we had the flood in Wood County years ago, we set up a 911 center in one of our mobile command centers. To my knowledge, it's the first time we've ever done it. It worked very well. Admittedly, it was on a much smaller scale than what you all would require. But has been done.
We could for a period of time. I would not want to try to leave that solution up and running for a long period of time in a county that's got 65,000 residents.
Is that located strategically that it could be set up pretty quick? I mean, if you needed to use it for 12 hours or 24 till something else.
Yeah, we have it at Post 1 right now.
I have another question, too. Maybe the city manager can answer this. The current 911 budget is about $1.6 million. Does that just cover the operation of the 911 center, or does that also include equipment costs?
Well,
equipment?
I think that's essentially an operating cost inclusive of any routine maintenance or contract maintenance. It does not reflect, unfortunately, John, correct me if I'm wrong here, because the finance officer is here and he knows this better than I do, any set aside of monies for equipment replacement or upgrade. Is that correct, John? Okay.
So we'd be comparing, it's currently $1.6 million, and although some of the same services at present wouldn't be provided, the state police can do the same thing for $700,000?
That's correct.
Correct. I mean, I know there's some services that aren't provided that we'd have to negotiate. But
That's right. Have to negotiate or have to perform at the local level still, if you chose to do so.
The decision is made to move to the next step. Would we put together an RFP that would define every service that would be provided?
No, I don't.
For you to respond to it, what would the next step be?
I don't think you'd have to put out an RFP. I think if you made the resolution to go forward, you would have to tell us specifically what you want, what services are anticipated, and we would have to redraft the cost proposals that we did. Again, could it be different? Yeah, it could, because we started drafting this back in the summer. I think the last time I was here, it was about 95 degrees outside, but I don't anticipate a large change in those prices. I think the next step, if you decide to move forward, is we sit down, we meet with the people at capital planning so we can talk about the capital construction. We get a very detailed list of services you expect from all the partner agencies, and then we look at it with a level of granularity beyond what we've done up to this point, to where we can say, all right, this is what we're getting ready to sign on the dotted line for.
So the equipment cost beyond the post, beyond on 45, all the equipment costs are costs that we currently have and that we'd have to pick up. Is that right?
I don't know exactly what you have, but there are some things you'd have to pick up, such as console hardware, console upgrades, some positions in our 911 controller, recorder upgrades, the stuff that you see in your proposal.
Yeah, I think it's generally understood, and it was brought
In
out.
the great scheme of equipment costs, though, that's a fairly low number, isn't it? I mean, because I know they're talking about $2 or $3 million to redo the entire system in the city and the county for all the radios to get to, was it 800 megahertz, or I don't know.
I think it's well in excess of three. I mean, it's a large number, well in excess of $3 million, I think, by current projections. But we're facing that either way.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. I don't want to give the false impression that for a $1.2 million startup cost and then $700,000 a year, we can fix your radio problems. That's just to enable us to take your 911 calls in McCracken County and do comprehensive dispatch for your public safety entities.
Under this proposal, you're asking Paducah and McCracken County to pay for the entire cost of expanding to build a 911 center.
That's correct.
Is there any chance that the state might share that, because moving 911 out from where it's located now out to a new annex would open up space for you and probably save you money in the future for office space that you need? That's probably beyond your pay grade, probably, to answer that question.
Well, it is. Honestly, that's something that those type of deals that have to be worked out by your representatives and through a process that I don't have any control over. But are you talking about repurposing your current space here in Paducah?
Yeah. No, your space. No, your space.
No, I think he's talking about the building that essentially we would build in Grace County.
You're just building an addition onto that post, and quite honestly, I would not expect the state to defray any of that cost, because right now we don't need it. It would be necessitated only by taking Paducah 911, Paducah McCracken 911.
You do have a need for more office space over there, my understanding is, and that would free up some space to have offices. So that might be a negotiating tool. That's probably beyond your pay grade.
Perhaps it is. I don't know that this would free up any office space for us, because we anticipate everything that we add on to be used for the 911 center.
Right.
The $300 a square foot, can you elaborate on where you came up with that number at?
Yeah, our facilities management people work directly with the state Office of Capital Planning, and I don't know if that's the exact name, but that's a standard rate that they negotiated from the state. So that actually came from outside the state police. That's what we were told by the Commonwealth, more broadly defined, that it would cost to enter into this project. And again, that's an estimate. That's irrespective of actually doing bids at the local level and having people go through that bid process.
Yeah, I've spoken with several contractors. That's actually quite high. I mean, just looking at some potential savings as far as that goes, it's roughly, $150 a square foot is pretty high for add-ons.
I was on the committee, if you want me to.
Oh, yeah, please.
I was on the committee that looked at that. They're looking at that. We are in a high earthquake zone, obviously. We're required by regulations through NCIC and others to make that area as secure as possible. What that includes, just for instance, now we have both level 5 bullet-resistant glass as well as blast-resistant glass. We have vehicle bollards. We have other security features that require that by the time you get into the bid process. Just building a regular addition for a retail establishment, you're exactly right, because I thought the same thing. That's really high. When you go through the state process, that's not a lot of fringe there. It's just getting that building in the location really hinders us a little bit there because of that.
My final question would be the timeline. This current proposal expired on the 15th of January. How much time are we talking about where you need to get an answer from us as to whether we're going to move forward? Is that indefinite or?
No, that's strictly up to you. Again, I want to reiterate that we're not here going, hey, you need to come with us. We're not trying to compel you or convince you. We were asked because at the request of the city and county, hey, what would it take? So that's all we're providing for you. If you decide, you know what, we're not ready to make this decision right now and we need more time to see where we're going, that's fine with us. If you decide to move forward today, this minute, if you vote on it and say, this is what we're going to do, we still got a long road ahead of us. But again, this is value neutral to us. We just want to be a good partner with you. Paducah is a fine city. This is a fine county. I mean, it's one of the gems of the Commonwealth. It's one of our biggest cities. We just want to be ready, if you decide to do this, to be there and support you. So that's strictly a local decision.
I do have one more question.
Yes, sir.
There's some posts, I think, that are not as strong in wanting to dispatch for other counties like they are here. I think this post is really, it's a priority for them if counties want help to do dispatching for them. Can we be assured if we enter into an agreement it's going to be a long-term 100% commitment? Once Lieutenant White retires and some others, or somebody else going to come in and say, we really don't want to do that anymore? Are they going to try to price us out of it? Is this a long-term commitment that we can be assured, as long as we agree to all the terms and prices, is a long-term commitment that will last?
Yes, and that's not a post commander's decision. These are policy decisions of the state police. I've served on the CMRS board for proxy of the commissioner for 10 years. Consolidations, been my experience with them both within KSP and outside of KSP. They are long-term agreements. We all agree that 911 is a vital service. So, no, I'm not aware of anybody that's ever consolidated with another entity, even other county and city governments, where they've run into those kinds of problems. We have said consistently since my 10, going on 11 years on the CMRS board, that KSP will be there if anybody decides they don't want a center. If it's within our capability to do so, we would. We even entertained a proposal from Kenton County about 2 years ago. That's the third largest county in the state population-wise. So we were just as committed to them if they decided to go with it as we would be to McCracken or our smallest counties. We do 911 for some counties that have a 4,000 population. It's irrespective of the size. It's a service that goes along in line with the Kentucky State Police mission statement. So, yes,
so the commitment would be there until there was an agreement not to be.
That's right, until somebody said either we don't want to do it anymore or we're not going to do it anymore.
I want to go back to the savings question. So we're talking about now, it costs about $1.6 million that the city and county pay for the 911 service, correct? So you're saying you could run it for about $700,000, but that's not all inclusive now of what we currently have.
Yeah, there may be some services I think you'll see in the 130 questions that we responded to. There's some things that you said, do you do this? We're like, no. Could we negotiate that? Yeah, could. I don't see any of those that would be big ticket items. But again,
they would add to the $700,000.
They could.
But you said so the $900,000 in savings comes from closing down this building over here, reduction from 18 to 10, and some consolidation of what else? I mean, I just don't see where the savings comes from going from 18 to 10 and closing down this building.
It'd be difficult for me to say because I don't know where that $1.6 million is derived from. I don't know what all that encompasses. I suspect that a good deal of that is whatever it takes to keep the lights on and to keep your facility running and to outfit it with hardware in the radio room to make your radios and your computers work, software to make those computers work. I assume that's a good deal of your cost, but I haven't seen the budget and exactly how you derive that $1.6 million. So I can't tell you specifically what it is, but a significant portion of that is just overhead costs in your 911 center and personnel.
And your formula shows clearly that you believe you can handle the number of calls that we currently have, 18 people with only 10.
Like I said, we dispatch for 25 local governments now, and we have seen through our experience what the increase in call volume necessitates us the way we run our 911 centers under the SOPs that we run our radio rooms on. So to tell you that we've got a derived formula, this means this, didn't do that. We know based on our experience how many people we have to staff to take X number of calls, and we do that at all 16 posts.
All right. You said earlier, you said that you'll dispatch for 5 counties, and you said with the addition of Paducah McCracken County, you said the post one would double. Well, if you have 20 dispatchers, you're going to double. And we're telling we need 18 dispatchers for what we do now, but you're asking for only 10 more dispatchers. I don't get that math.
I can show you with a good example, and that is a great question, Commissioner Rhodes. I'd like to step out here to get it to you. You have a wreck on Hinkleville Road right now. Somebody dials 911 and you got a wreck, right? You have a 2-vehicle wreck on Hinkleville Road. You call 911 to your current dispatch center over here at Allen Morgan Dispatch Center, okay? That dispatcher or those dispatchers are going to answer numerous calls on that same wreck, okay? That's typical of any 911 center. But what they're going to do then, if they need police, fire, and EMS, generally the way their makeup is now, when we got to looking at the way they do business as compared to the way we do business, they create basically three CAD events, okay? The state police doesn't do that. We create one CAD event, computer-aided dispatching, and we assign all the multiple agencies who are responding to that. We don't do things in triplicate. Okay, so that cuts down on our volume automatically. It goes back to the economies of scale. So when your dispatch center says we had 42,000, I'm just throwing this number out there, 42,000 CAD events. Well, did you just have one incident and you counted it as 3? That goes back to the explanation I gave about how the fire department gets their CAD information that doesn't have the federally regulated information from the databases on it. Does that make sense? So that is an example of how we can do things on an economy of scale with 10 versus 18. But we also have the experience of doing this for many, many years and being able to do it. But that's how part of the way when we looked at their volume that we could ascertain how we could do it for a less number of people.
In addition to that, Mr. Rhodes.
But that doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you've got 15 people who call with the accident on Hinkleville Road, you still got to have the bodies in the seats to listen to the phone calls. Whether you make 3 CAD events or 100 CAD events, you still got to have the people answering the phone, or somebody's not going to get picked up.
And our personnel are very good at that. We do not let 911 calls go unanswered. Once our dispatcher understands that they have the same incident being reported by multiple callers, they're very quick to get off that phone unless they need to stay on the phone with that caller. We do it every day on Interstate 24. Can you imagine a wreck happening on Interstate 24 and 100 people going by that wreck, maybe 30 minutes after the wreck has happened, and continually calling 911? Sure. We do that every day.
In addition to that, Mr. Rhodes, it takes a certain number of people just to do 24-hour staffing, even if you don't have 911. And we're going to stand up dispatch centers with that minimum number regardless. So it's not an apples-to-apples comparison to say that for each 60,000 calls, you have to pick up, if you've already taken 60,000 calls and you do it with 20, that doesn't mean you need 20 more, because you have to have a minimum number to staff it anyway. And then as your call volume increases, we go based off that, off those increases, how many more people we need. We feel that it'll be sufficient to do that with 10 people because we've already got 20 seats.
I just don't buy the math. I'm sorry.
I'm not trying to sell you. I'm trying to tell you that that's what we do across the state, and we do a pretty good job of it.
I think Judge Leeper has a question.
Yes, thank you. I got a couple. Thank you. It's Major Bradley.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here. Couple things and kind of all over the place. I apologize for that. Is you mentioned earlier that you had a PSAP, correct term, for a number of localities that were grouped together that had a population close to what this would be if we joined with
Correct.
Post 1. How long has that been in operation, that group?
We have had that operate. I've been on the state police 19 years, and to my knowledge, we have been doing comprehensive dispatch for those counties for the entire 19 years of my career, and I think going on in times before that, but I don't have an exact date for you.
Okay. How many of those, how many localities, cities, counties, how many are in that?
That's a great question. I think at that post, and Seth, you may know this, I think we do 47 fire departments alone.
Pretty close, 47.
I think roughly 40-some fire departments and a handful of police departments as well. 4 sheriff's offices and several city municipalities as well.
How many governmental entities, how many counties and cities?
Got 4 counties, and I believe the cities are encompassed within them, with the exception of the city of Prestonsburg and Floyd County. They still maintain their own dispatch center.
Okay. In that period of time, and you're not sure whether it's 19 years or 15 years or 10 years?
It's 19 or longer.
Have any of the people that initially joined with that PSAP gotten out of it?
Not that I'm aware of. There is one that plans to, and it's, to my knowledge, not because of any complaints they have. It's just that they've mapped the county and want to go it on their own. It's one of the smaller counties there, so although I wish them all the success in the world, I think it's going to be difficult because, again, these are economies of scale as well. It's harder for a small PSAP than it is for a larger one, but not that I'm aware of. That's at our Pikeville post. I believe we have longstanding agreements with all 4 governmental entities that are represented.
So can you share with me which county it is so I can contact them?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I was going to suggest. I implore all of you, before you make a decision on this, talk with the other governmental entities. We're talking, in this case, Pike, Floyd, Martin, and McGoffin counties. I'll give you a list of every county, or we'll provide it to you. One of us will provide you a list of every county that we do 911 dispatch for, both wireless and wireline. And I encourage you to contact them. I want you to be as informed as you possibly can be, and talk to the people in the cities, the people that represent those counties, and ask them how it's worked and what's not. We could learn from that process as well.
Can you give me the name of the county that's working on their own, that's pulling out?
McGoffin County.
McGoffin.
Absolutely.
No.
I don't know that they've made a formal proposal, but that's our understanding of why they've worked diligently to map their county.
Very good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
You mentioned, I think you said you're on the CMRS board, and I'm acutely aware that there hasn't been any movement on the fee in a number of years. I looked in the legislative record, and I don't think there appears to be any movement this session at this point in time. Do you anticipate any movement?
I anticipate none.
Okay. And the reason I ask that question, because some of these other members, Commissioner Byers not here, so maybe Commissioner Galt can tell me. My understanding of how we got to this point, and you all got invited into this discussion, was at the end of the consultant's presentation, there was a discussion about how much this all was going to cost and how much the fee was going to be and how much we were going to have to increase and strategies to pay for this. And my understanding, reading the report, there's a suggestion of a partial fee or a meter fee to try to deal with the issue, which we've discussed in Frankfurt a number of times and not taken action on it, and that is the loss of landlines, people going to cells, and what it's doing to our 911 fees. And so then somebody said, well, that's a substantial increase, and we would have to put that on the taxpayers or the fee payers, however you want to phrase it. And someone said, wonder if Kentucky State Police would be able to help us out. Is that how this occurred?
As far as I know, by the time I got involved...
That's basically the story. Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of the discussions happened locally, and by the time I got the call, in Frankfurt, it was strictly as a technical consult. I really don't know what the exact local environment was. That was handled primarily by the folks here at Post.
I think Commissioner Galt confirmed my...
There was a consultant's report that came in. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but yes.
So that's basically how we got to this point. And CMRS is probably, and the legislature is probably not going to affect that, although I wish that would happen. Because I think statewide we need that to happen.
The technology has far outpaced the funding mechanism for it. I don't want to go too far out on the skinny branches and look like I'm at all advocating anything politically. I am not. I'm just saying the matter of fact is the technology has outpaced funding mechanism.
And I appreciate the way you've couched your presentation, and that there's other things that you can do. We would have to pay for them if there was cost associated, and that would be negotiating a contract. That makes sense to me. Are there any things... We represent all of the county.
Sure.
but we also have to give special attention to those people outside the city because they would have no other representation.
Right.
So let me be a little parochial here and say about the volunteer fire departments. Are there costs as far as their radios or anything that they would incur simply because we moved?
I don't think so. I'll give a nod to my technical people here. I think that as long as their radio system works with ours, we shouldn't. Okay. It's unlikely.
Okay. And if we were to get into something, I believe our current structure, and Mr. City Manager, you can correct me if I'm wrong or somebody else, there's other things that are dispatched from the Allie Morgan Center other than what most people consider public safety issues. If we were to move down the road and the city were to come along with that, and they would want you all to dispatch other things besides the things that are traditionally considered 911 type dispatch thing, would you all be able to negotiate that into a contract?
I think we can. I can't sit here without going over the itemized list again and say, yeah, we can do that. No, we can't. But I think we can work anything out. I think we'll have the time to do that, and we can figure out a way to make it happen.
Okay.
Let me also say there may be some things that there may be technical considerations to where it works more efficiently now in Paducah than it would down there. I can't think of any, but really that shouldn't be an issue. I mean, most of this stuff, the mechanism, the technical architecture is there, or at least can be created.
Cameras, yeah.
One of the things you mentioned, and I think it's in the consultant's report, which I have over here, and that is the supervisor to employee ratio. I think they questioned that in their consultant's report. Is that right, Commissioner? Okay, so that's not something that's unique to what you all would want to do. I think the consultant recognized that we had some issues in that, so that's not a major issue. I really don't have any other questions this time. Got a lot of questions, but I don't have any others at this time, except to say that I appreciate your all's willingness to come forward and present to all of us. We've got, unfortunately, as a statement, if I might, one of the things in the consultant's report, it talks about the two commission members that are on the 911 board, and some people question the knowledge of those commission members to sit on the 911 board and that sort of thing. And it's interesting that we find ourselves as commissioners being handed this decision when the consultant says we're probably not qualified to sit on the board. So I find that a little bit ironic, but it is where we're at, and we will do our best in that frame and try to do the best for the taxpayers and citizens of McCracken County, and I'm sure the city of Paducah. But I appreciate your all's professionalism. I've enjoyed it and watching you all and budgeting with you all over a number of years.
Well, we really want to be there for you. I mean, I mean that sincerely. Like I said, this is not something to where we feel like we need the business. This will be difficult for us as well, but this is what we do. This is part of what the state police mission statement says. So that's why anybody that asks us and comes to us in good faith to say, what would it take to do this? We're going to tell you to the best of our ability how to do that. And we appreciate the opportunity to speak with you here tonight.
Well, and I just want to say that I appreciate your patience with some of the questions I had because, you know, I'm certainly not qualified to sit on the 911 board.
Well, I think the people controlling the money probably are qualified to sit on the 911 board, at least in some capacity anyway. So I don't want to get cross with your consultant there, but it makes sense to me. And, you know, I told Captain White, who's somebody that's become a friend, somebody I have a lot of respect for, and Chief Conway met before. I've been through this many, many times with many entities, and most of them come and get a proposal and, you know, I don't know what the ratio is. Some come on with us and some don't. But my experience, unfortunately, has been most entities don't do this until they have no other choice. And that's the worst time to have to make a decision is when you've got no options. So I'm at least glad that this is coming at a time when you all are looking at your funding mechanisms and it's still working now, at least as far as I can tell. I haven't seen your books or anything and don't claim to have any desire to. But it's a good time to make a decision when you don't have to, and you can make a cogent decision now. We'll do whatever we can to help you do that.
Mayor, I just quickly want to recognize Lieutenant White. Or is it Captain White? He just... okay, sorry. I thought, well, maybe there's something I didn't know. But he has been very patient, and he really needs a pat on the back. We appreciate everything he's done. We beat up on him just a little bit, and we appreciate it very much. You've gone above and beyond, and Thank you.
Thank you all. If there's no further
Thank
questions.
you. So where do we go from here?
We can adjourn.
Okay.
If I get a motion. Motion is second.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, they're going to waive us.
All right.
So where do we go next?
Thank you.
See you, Scott. See you.
I still think Bill's report. Bill Bartleman's report, that big bunch of paper and all that stuff. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. You all are very professional. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome, sir.
I know, always,
What I
always.
can do.
You look like a professor.
Should send you a prize.
Don't say nothing, don't be nothing.
Thank you.
I think that was a good meeting.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very informative. I lost our crowd.
Lots of moving parts.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I thought cars were complicated.
We have to, we just go on with our meeting. Okay, next, under municipal orders, Commissioner Abraham, please.
Upon the recommendation of the city manager, the Board of Commissioners of the City of Paducah order that the personnel changes on the attached list be approved.
Second?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I would point you to the top item on your list. This is Nathan Taylor, who resigned from the engineering department late last year. This young man comes to us from Owensboro Municipal Government, working in their utilities division, proposing him to replace Nathan Taylor.
I know Rick's glad to have that person, and yes,
The high priority replacement in the department.
I think we may have a...
There's no, I don't see Nathan, I don't see that.
Oh, no. The top one, Eric Hickman, is replacing Nathan Taylor,
I got you.
who left us.
Here we go. Okay.
Sorry if I misstated that.
All right.
right.
Okay. Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Kaler?
Aye. City Manager's report.
I've been working with Greater Paducah Sustainability on a transition plan for that organization for the remaining period of time that they will be at their present location and ahead of the time that we would have in place facilities for recycling on a curbside basis should we decide to go that route. A couple weeks ago, in discussions with that organization, they were optimistic that they could continue operations and at a somewhat reduced level, but yet a level that made sense through perhaps the end of May. And a proposal was delivered for some financial assistance on the part of the city to accomplish that. Mayor Kaler and I have visited about that. Nonetheless, no action was taken on that. We obviously didn't bring anything forward formally to you. Since that time, and information as recent as today, in fact, the operation has scaled back quite a bit in the sense of the amount of volume coming in to where the revenue projection is much lower, and the projected period of time for which the operation would stay in place sensibly has been reduced quite a bit. That's a good thing. It's a bad thing. It's something we want to try to manage and assist in that transition. It makes sense. GPS has played a lead role in the recycling program locally, and the city has partnered with GPS, as you all know, through our solid waste department. We are now looking at less money to assist with transitioning, something maybe in the neighborhood of $8,000 to $10,000, where it may have been considerably more than that if the operation had been sustainable at or close to its current level through the end of May. So while that's maybe a little depressing for GPS in a certain sense, we are now looking at a much smaller contribution to help finance the transition, something, as I said, probably less than $10,000. So I want to make you aware of that. We do have a couple ways of approaching that. One would be just in the form of a transition agreement or subsidy, if you will. We also have the opportunity to consider a reimbursement to GPS for a significant expense that it occurred several months ago for a piece of equipment that is, in fact, owned by the city. So I think we can accomplish this fairly easily. Continue to work with GPS in the transition phase. I might mention that I'm meeting with Republic Services in the morning. The operator of the transfer station, going to be talking about a couple things. One being setting up drop point recycling facilities, if you will, at the transfer station for a period of time until more permanent facilities were put in place after a decision is made on the curbside recycling and after a process is conducted to procure long-term facilities for both solid waste and recycling. On that issue of the long-term procurement of those facilities, I will also be discussing with Republic our need to extend our current contract for a period of time to give us more time to do that. It's not a formal contract extension of 5 years or anything like that because, again, as I've mentioned to you, we cannot just do that because it's at the 20-year period now and it runs into what would become a franchise under state law, which is not permissible. So it would be a temporary extension to give us more time to conduct the procurement process to arrive at a long-term contract with some provider. So just a little update on that. The only other thing, we need executive session tonight for economic development.
Okay, thank you. Mayor and Commissioners' comments.
I want to thank you for the joint presentation tonight. I thought it was very informative, so kudos to whoever organized it. But I thought it was really well done. It was very informative. I was just reading it.
Mm-hmm. It is. And, it'll give us the opportunity to have more input into the final negotiated contract with them, if we decide to go that way.
I think we learned tonight that KSP would be willing to respond to something if we outlined it, which would be kind of like going back and doing an RFP where we together with the county, set forth what it is we are looking for and then ask them to respond to that, both in terms of what they can do and can't do and then what the full cost would be. So I think that was a good takeaway from tonight.
I did have a tour of the new restaurant downtown today. I just walked in and she was so happy to give a tour of the Italian Grill. Is that what it'd be called? It's beautiful. They've done an outstanding job. They're so excited to be in Paducah. And I said, so March 1st is the opening date. She said, well, maybe, it might be just a little bit later, but quality craftsmanship in the restaurant and the services. They're making their own pasta. They're going to sell pasta as well, make their own breads, use fresh ingredients. They're even making their own mozzarella. So it's going to be good.
I haven't had supper. That was hard.
Yeah.
Good news.
That's exciting.
I went by the Beer Works, but the owner wasn't there today, but it's coming along too.
Yeah.
Get a sample?
Things going on.
No.
I want to thank Chief Kyle and Chief Barnhill for supplying a lot of brain power and effort on an afternoon, in fact, a weekend worth of reading. Thanks a lot, guys. Very enlightening. I had to learn what a few acronyms meant. But Dr. Gould took good care of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Who has the executive? Commissioner Galt?
I move that the board go into closed session for discussion of matters pertaining to the following topics. Issues which might lead to the appointment, dismissal, or disciplining of an employee as permitted by KRS 61.8101F. A specific proposal by a business entity where public discussion of the subject matter would jeopardize the location, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business entity as permitted by KRS 61.8101G.
Second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Abraham?
Aye.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Kayler?
Aye. And we will not be coming back, so meeting's adjourned.
What's today?
Be brief, but to the mayor and the city commissioner, I would like to thank for giving me an opportunity to come before this to commission to about my concerns about some of the things that's been going on at Paducah Power System.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I really am not here for is the pay raise that those guys got. By it being, would be 43 years if I was still had an opportunity to continue on, would be in the electrical field. And I would say that those guys that work out there, they're equivalent to the police department when you need a policeman. They're equivalent to the fire department if you have a fire. But if the lights go off and we have a freeze or storm or anything like that, the lights, cold, who you going to call? You're going to call Paducah Power for us, the city, Jack and Purchase, and other people like that. So we're qualified to go out there in the cold and the danger and provide for the city. I have no problem with those guys. They deserve it. But what's going on in the city commission, in this city, is a couple of things I don't quite understand. Is there things the people are doing in this city that's costing this city millions of dollars, and nobody is answering for it. They make mistakes and nobody is saying nothing. But my concern is about Paducah Power and some of its people that are still there. The new general manager that we're about to get seemed to be a very educated individual, and the one we had temporary was very educated. But this makes the fifth general manager in 15 years that Paducah Power System have had from Don Fuller, his situation. They had to go in and get Mr. Denton to take his place. Then after Mr. Denton, they got Mr. Clark to come in and take his place. And after Mr. Clark, they came in and got this gentleman that they pay X amount of dollars for 4 months to stand, to be able to comprehend what this city is going through. And then we got another general manager, PhD, well qualified, to come in here, to hope, to get us back to where we ought to be. And I'm talking about these people. If in the last 15 years, we got people down there, assistant general manager, that have not been able to step up to the plate. What happens if this general manager falls short and is gone? Is the assistant general manager going to be able to step up? He ain't stepped up in 15 years. And the manager over finance, either have he. And I can call names. Matter of fact, I will. Rick Winhart, assistant general manager. I met all the general managers. That's when I got hired. He ain't been able to step up. They have fired individuals for less than that. What I got to say is something similar that is going around in this whole country. And it might not sound very good, but we have a racial problem down at Paducah Power. Give you an example. I'm going to use that. There's a no water fountain policy down there at Paducah Power. There's a no bathroom utility down at Paducah Power. The reason why I'm saying this, there are still departments down there that never had a black individual in it. When the last time they had a black employee? There was once 19 African American males working down there. Now there's 7. What happened to the other 12? Why was they not changed out? Why is there no black apprentices? Why is there never been a black in the meter lab? Why there's never been a black in management? There are several places down there that have not accommodated African American. They say it's equal opportunity, but that's far from the truth. Dave Carroll, Rick Reinhardt, they ran this operation, and they ran it to the ground. Rick can't step up. I was once an employee down there. I got hurt on the job, hurt my back on the job, just like city policeman here, hurt in the line of duty. But they found means, but not for me. And another issue is, we as African Americans that work down there, we have nobody to go to. They had 2 cities. They had, when I got hired, it was by 3 black African American board members. And Reverend Harvey was the chairman, and Commissioner Coleman was also there, and this other gentleman that made them hire me. But now it's only 1, and we had nobody to go to. If we had a problem, we couldn't go to the board. If we had a problem, we couldn't come to a city commissioner. Where if we were union like the police department or the fire department, at least we would have some kind of representation. There is none down there. And they do what they want to do. And like I said, 19 blacks, and now there are 7. And when are the people? This money we paid for this general manager to come here, which I understand is quite a bit. But you got an assistant general manager that for the last 15 years is getting assistant general manager monies and can't perform the duty. I was fired because I had back injury, and they also told me, and I bet it's a long-going process, I'm still working on it, that if I couldn't pick up over 35 pounds, that they didn't need me. And I was well-versed. Been a general electrician for many years, outstanding electrician, very good evaluations, but there was nothing for me. And now you got these people down here, Madam Mayor, and I thought Paducah Power was owned by all of us, but now it seems like it's been left down there to them. And as you said, Madam Mayor, this is bigger than the flood of 32, 36. I only been here in Paducah 18 years. But I would like for this city commissioner to get and investigate it. I met the city manager. I've been down there before. I never give up because I was wrong. I had nobody to speak to. The city commission that once sit here, he told me, I wrote him a letter, he told me I messed up. And I said, how I messed up? And I got hurt on the job. He refused to tell me. And I'm just here to say that you guys need to look into this, because we can't continue to afford these high prices. Now, I'm on a fixed income, and I was fired and thrown over the fence, and I had nobody to go to help me. Nobody. My little $10,000 that I spent to get a lawyer, I had 3 lawyers in the state of Kentucky to rip me off. 3. And here I am going against a company that can be able to borrow $650 million. They could easily sold me out for $1 million and nobody never know. But there's people down there like me, of color, need somebody to look after us too for our interest, because Dave Carroll, Rick Winhoff, Mr. Clark, and the chairman of your board. And I like to say, I told him he was a racist to his face, and I'm not kidding. I don't mean nothing, but this is what's going on here in the country now.
I think we usually ask you to speak about 5 minutes.
Okay, yes, ma'am, and thank you for giving me these minutes.
You are welcome.
And I hope y'all take it heed, because if not, you're going to continue. If y'all would have done it 15 years ago, we wouldn't have this problem now.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Was there anyone else?
Well, I've got 2 or 3 things to talk on, but I won't talk on each one very long. Wasn't there an article in the paper this morning where you were going to speak about the Paducah Power thing tonight?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't speak about it?
Well, it's a personnel issue.
Oh, it's a personnel issue, okay. Well, the first thing about the Paducah Power, you see all the articles in the paper about the debt. Okay. Well, the debt's only the beginning. Nobody ever looks at the interest. These are rough figures. I've calculated KMPA debt. I've took out the 16.6% the Princeton owes of that debt. Then I've plugged in the $170 million local debt they've got for the peaking plant, and I guess that hydroelectric thing over there. And I got them back there, report from the internet. These are rough figures. Between now and 37, some of the bonds, and the rest of the bonds, 1942, they owe a total of $1,397 million. I mean, it's going to have to come out of our pockets. And so that works out to $62,000 per person, just for your knowledge. Another thing is, I didn't begrudge the employees' raise, particularly the linemen and the people in the office. They don't make that much money. I felt like maybe the upper management didn't deserve their raise because they've been part of this mess for years. But what I do take outrage at is what they're probably paying all these outside consultants, just what he brought up. Why hasn't nobody been there able to step up? When I had that one meeting, you said Mr. What was his name?
The interim guy, Croissant?
Croissant, yeah. Going rate for a guy like him, you said, was $300 an hour. And then the new guy, he was making $255,000 in Lubbock, running 100,000 plus people utility. I mean, if you promised us over there that you would be open about what's going on, I think you should all publish what those people are making, like they do at other utilities. The fact that when he left down there, he got like a $200,000 settlement. Did Mr. Clark get a settlement? That was never brought up. He probably did, I've heard.
It's not been finally determined.
Questions for
Well, then it's been complicated.
Yeah.
It's been considered, okay.
I will tell you
These are questions for the
yeah, but
board, really.
And I don't recall if this was mentioned at the board meeting. The contract that we approved last week is public. Nonetheless, it may not have come out in the meeting, but the salary for the new general manager is $200,000, slightly less than the previous general manager was making.
Well, I mean, he's only on a one-year contract, right? With a 6-month severance, I mean, he could technically work a year and
about that.
He could technically work a year and get paid for a year and a half.
Board questions, Mayor.
Yeah. Have you asked Paducah Power all these questions, the Paducah Power Board?
Well, Mr.
Because they're really questions for the board.
Well, yes, but Mr. Peterson's on the board, and they don't meet that often.
You're all day.
Yeah.
We want to talk
anyway, we've talked about that, okay. The other thing on the 911, the problem I think there is not what you know, is what you don't know.
Right.
That what you should get them to look at is offer you a contract that does exactly what you're doing now, what the total cost would be for that contract, and then back out maybe what you don't want. See, you don't know how to even compare now. It's Greek. You don't even know what you're comparing to.
No, you're right about that in the city. has more services that we use.
That's what I mean. If
in
they
the
were,
county.
there wouldn't be that. I don't think there'd be that much savings if they furnished everything you're doing as a city. See what I mean? You would actually know what you're saving then. Now there's too many unknowns. And the third thing, and I'll finish up, you had an article in the paper. Well, you didn't have an article. It was in the Paducah Sun about the Paducah River Port Authority. That Mr. Carter had made the statement, and for 3 years they had tried to get it in a roundabout way. I don't know what that means. A foreign trade zone designation, which is very important apparently. And that now they're having to hire a consultant to get that. But then I did some checking, and the Owensboro River Port Authority has had the foreign trade zone designation for years. I mean, that's just an example of what goes on around here. Nobody seems to be doing their job, where they wasted 3 years not getting that designation. But there's only mention an article in the paper that's very important.
Have you talked to the Riverport Authority Board about that?
No, I mean, y'all, I guess that's appointed by somebody. Is that appointed by y'all, or?
The mayor and the judge.
That's what I mean. Okay. So, and then the other thing about that Paducah Power situation, back at that meeting in September, was it September, I think, you said that you were going to bring that gentleman, Mr. Sloshel or something, to make a presentation?
No, we never said that.
There were efforts to bring him
Right,
in.
there were efforts to bring him in, but we didn't state that we would bring him in.
Oh, okay. All right.
See, this
Schlessel?
Go ahead.
Schlessel, I think was the name.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yes,
The one
yeah,
that works
yeah.
with, like a
Institute, yeah.
yes. Mhm.
It's
There were people that suggested that he could come. We wanted them to. I don't think we ever committed. We were.
Oh, I just thought you were. Okay.
I'm going to comment on a couple of things. The mayor appoints individuals to various boards, and we confirm those appointments. When something goes awry, folks come down here and they talk to the entity that appoints that board, and we pass the buck. What's not us? You got to talk to this board. You got to talk to that board. Well, they're coming to the entity that appointed the board. So maybe we need to think a little bit more. We need to think a little bit about that. Because that's what it seems to. I'm sitting here and I'm hearing this guy, and I hear the other guy, and on this ear, I got ears on both sides of my head. On this side, I'm hearing like, well, did you talk to this board? Did you talk to the Paducah Power Board? Yes, he did. Exactly.
I know most of their
This is who he's talking to. But we passed the buck. Well, not that board member. You need to talk to a different board member. And as a city commissioner, and when we're campaigning, we talk about how you can trust us. We want your vote. You can depend on us. But then when this crap hits the fan and the folks come down here and step to the mic and tell us something that we don't hear, well, you need to talk to that board. I don't think that's the image we want to portray. Now I'm speaking for myself. Everybody around here is grown and everybody's elected. They can speak for themselves. But I really feel that I'm doing a disservice when someone comes down here and hold us accountable, and we pass the buck to the other board that we appointed. You appointed and we affirmed.
How many board meetings do you all attend as commissioners? Individual board meetings to kind of keep up with what's going on?
And all the other members?
I'm sorry.
How many boards do I sit on, or do I attend?
No, do you attend? I'm making it a point this year to attend at least once a month one of the board meetings, so that I can
See what's going on, yeah.
Right. Say I'm here, I want to hear what's going on. There are many boards that we get their minutes from them that we can look over. Now, some of the minutes don't come out they don't come out like immediately. But we can require that all the boards send us their minutes for us to read, so we know more of what they're doing, the kind of decisions they're making. Well, those are some of the things we can do to be more proactive.
To Commissioner Abraham's point, I met this morning with the chair of the Paducah Power Board, and Andrea Underwood, and Dave Carroll. And I know that we've all probably done that at some time. I mean, I don't. But the hard part is, we meet with them, we get the information. We don't. We're not sitting in the board. You understand what I'm saying? We're not sitting there. Where do we go from there?
Well, I met with those same people last week, and I couldn't answer all of those questions.
I met with him this morning, and I couldn't answer his questions. That's what I'm saying.
How many boards do you make appointments to?
There's not enough of me to go around. I'm sorry.
Tammy?
Probably 20.
I do this job.
20 or...
The waterworks.
More than that.
And I'm not willing to assume all these other boards their responsibility. I'm just not. And you can say, Alan, you're being a bad commissioner. That's okay. But
I'm not saying you're a bad commissioner.
I'm not going to own those other boards. I'm just not. I'm on the Waterworks board, and I go to those meetings, and I'm an active participant. But there ain't enough of me, and there's not going to be enough of me to take responsibility of every board that the mayor and this group agrees to. Sorry, just not going to happen for me personally.
Well, it may not, and I understand that. But here we sit. We're responsible. And you can roll that over however you want.
Y'all are elected officials. They're appointed. Y'all have more.
I mean, it is what it is, Alan.
Well,
How many of those boards do you go to, Richard?
I'm on one board, and that's the
Brooks Stadium.
Brooks Stadium board.
And how often do they meet?
They meet once, well, pretty much like the rest of them, once a month. And I get minutes. It is challenging, but
I don't feel
I don't know.
passing the buck at all. I just don't feel that way. I feel like we can't answer all those questions, and I think that's their first line.
Well, I guess then we need to, as far as requiring the minutes, or if there is a person in that position, whether it's the public relation officer or whatever, to be a little bit more diligent on getting that the information that they talked about the what was that orange up the road?
Riverport, yeah.
Riverport.
I would say one more thing about that. I mean, their website says we're going to become the main inland river port, which sounds good. But they have like 40, all we have storage space over here is like 40,000 square feet. I mean, and they talk about that new crane. Well, the crane doesn't have much business to unload. The Owensboro Riverport has 1 million square feet of storage space. That's nearly 25 acres. And 7 of their warehouses are full, and the 8th one is nearly full. I mean, it doesn't seem like these agencies that I guess get government money all, it doesn't seem like they have any accountability to anybody.
Okay. Do we have your phone number?
270-442-9319.
And Tammy has your name.
Ron Ward.
Ron. I'll have Ken call you, Ken Cantor, call you and talk to you about that.
Yeah, well, I tried to call down there, but he never would answer.
I'll have him call you.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that's rather odd to say we're going to be the number when we're not.
Well, there may be things about it that we're not aware of. I know that they have been working on that for quite some time.
Yeah.
I don't know why they haven't gotten it. I know they've made trips to D.C. They've made other things trying to get that. And I know our recent appointment to that board was to specifically help them with
Yeah,
that.
but other people seem to manage, they had it for years. See how they managed to get it.
That's a good question. There are a lot of things that we could question, why does Owensboro have their riverfront and we don't? Well, there are a lot of things that we could.
Yeah.
But
Okay, thank y'all.
Mr. Ward.
Thank you.
Mr. Ward, can I get your number again, please?
270-442-9319.
Okay, we'll have to have a motion to come out,
So
go
moved.
into executive session.
No, we've already done that.
We're okay.
To come out of this.
So now we can just adjourn.
Okay.
Right.
Meeting's adjourned.
We're going to executive session.